Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. I apologize for missing the video yesterday. It's a day I just completely forgot about it and it flew by so quickly. By the time I realized it was already at the end of the day. So today we're making up for it, but today we've got quite a bit to talk about with severe weather today, the cold air mass next week, and of course we'll talk about the long range as well with a warming trend, then going back to cold sometime in December. So quite a bit to talk about today. Let's go in and dive in. Alright, so first things first, let's talk about severe weather. We do have a slight risk of severe storms across parts of Tennessee and Kentucky today. The main concern today is going to be damaging winds, but there could be some large hail and maybe a couple of tornadoes across some of this risk area, mainly focused across parts of Tennessee and Kentucky and down here in the parts of Alabama and Georgia. But not a big threat today. Maybe just an isolated, scattered severe threat. There could be a couple storms that do end up rotating. So let's go ahead and look at the national radar, or at least the depiction of what the radar could look like over the next 48 hours. Today's going to be a most eventful day. Within the next 48 hours, you do have, of course, that severe threat across parts of Tennessee and Kentucky and further south in Alabama and Georgia this afternoon and this evening. Some of these storms are going to be more scattered in nature, some more isolated, but a few of them should become severe, mainly damaging winds and large hail. If a storm can remain discreet enough, with enough instability, with enough wind shear, those storms could rotate and produce a couple of tornadoes. But not a very significant threat today, of course. There's just not, the ingredients just aren't quite there for a very robust severe or tornado threat today. Those storms will weaken fairly quickly as the sun sets and as they move out of the instability. Instability values just not that great. They are higher off to the west, but the ascent, the force that's needed for these storms to develop, is displaced to the east. So that's where storms will be, and they will quickly outrun that instability as we go into the late evening and overnight hours. So the severe threat may end not too far after dark, but we'll have to see how things go. There's still a lot of uncertainty even today for today's severe threat. So let's go back and let's see go back out to the country, and you can see that we do have another system coming in here Saturday and into Sunday. So this is going to go into Sunday, and you can see snow across parts of the northern plains and into the Midwest as well. That could dump some heavy snow, especially as the system moves in to the Great Lakes region and pulls that moisture from the Great Lakes. So a few inches of snow may be possible across parts of northern plains and into the Great Lakes region Saturday and into Sunday. And this is just one leg of this big system that's coming in this weekend and into early next week. So if we go out to global modeling here, this is the European at midnight on Sunday, Central Standard Time, and you can see this big trough that is sitting over parts of eastern Canada and much of the United States as well. And this has just multiple little waves within it. It's got multiple legs of this large trough, and this will dive down and intensify even more as we get into Monday, bringing the coldest air of the season, potentially record-breaking cold for this time of year. Not, for this whole season, but just for this time period. That would be Monday and Tuesday of next week. Some records are likely to be broken in some areas. So you can see just big old trough moving through the region, and will leave here late Tuesday and into early Wednesday. We could have some more energy slide into the northern parts of the country on Wednesday and Thursday, but we will warm back up pretty quickly as we get into the latter part of next week. We'll go back to the 0 and continue throughout time, and you can see we may continue this sort of train of troughs for the northeastern quarter of the country, but that ridge will slowly move east as we go into parts of middle to late November. Now the question is, will we break the cycle of ridging across central and eastern states, which will offer more warmer air, more mild air for much of the country? We don't know when that cycle is going to break. It seems like it's going to last at least a couple of weeks, where much of the country is going to be in this more mild pattern, not warm or hot pattern, but just more mild. A little above average for most people. I think the European may be a little bit aggressive with the warmer air, as it's not too surprising this time of year, but I think this much cooler pattern will be overridden pretty quickly. Now, we'll talk about more long range in just a moment, but I do want to touch on the snow potential, because this system is not just going to be providing cold air, but it is going to be providing the potential for snow across parts of the country. So obviously we mentioned that some potential across the northern plains and the Midwest on Saturday and Sunday. The Euro is not as aggressive with that snow across parts of the northern plains as a lot of the other models are. So I think the Euro may be a little bit on the conservative side as far as snow for those regions. But it is one of the more liberal models for snow out east. And we'll take a look at the O6Z run. We are recording a little bit earlier today than usual, so we're not going to get a 12Z data in, but I really don't expect the message to change much, if at all, with the 12Z run, as we are sort of in range. We're sort of at a closer range. I don't expect much change in the messaging. But you can see here the European putting in some light snow from parts of northern Alabama into Illinois, even Tennessee, Kentucky, and even into the Appalachians. Now, I do think the Appalachians are going to get some accumulating snow from parts of Tennessee, North Carolina, maybe far north Georgia, and into parts of Pennsylvania. But any areas outside of that will probably not get any accumulation. We'll just see snow fall, but the soil temperature is going to be too warm for snow to properly accumulate. But then some of that moisture may flow over the mountains, which is usually a problem this time of year. We get moisture that gets pulled off in the Great Lakes, but it usually dries out as it hits the Appalachians. But that may be different. The moisture may be strong enough, the system may be dynamic enough to pull some of that moisture over the mountains and give some light snow for parts of the Mid-Atlantic region. It's usually very tough. Again, like I mentioned, very tough this time of year. That's something we more commonly see later in the season with these stronger systems and more moisture gets pulled up from the south. But we are relying solely on moisture from the Great Lakes, as the lakes are still kind of warm this time of year. Now, models are kind of going back and forth on whether there's going to be snow for the Carolinas. That's very questionable. Again, it's all going to be dependent on how much moisture can make it over the mountains. The air is going to be cold. That's for sure. The air will be cold enough. There will be plenty of lift, plenty of cooling aloft, so we're not going to have to worry about mixed precip issues. But if there's enough moisture, we will see snow fall. Accumulation very much in question, likely not much, if anything. If anything would accumulate, it's going to melt very quickly on Tuesday, as temperatures will warm. But we're going to continue to see some lake effect snow into Wednesday, maybe even going into early Thursday. But as far as the cold, man, it's going to get cold across the country. And you can see that just big old cold front moving in on Saturday and Sunday. For parts of the southeast, temperatures will fall throughout the day Sunday. So temperatures will go in reverse on Sunday. Instead of warming, they will be cooling. But you can see here going into Monday morning, lots of 20s, lots of 30s. Same story, even some teens up here in parts of North Dakota. Those teens will probably spill down to South Dakota and Minnesota as well on Monday and even into Tuesday further east across parts of the Midwest. I think the Euro may be a little bit warm here, actually. The European may be a bit warm. In some of these areas, oops, wrong region, could see potentially upper teens. And that will also be influenced by how much snow falls. If more snow falls than expected, those temps will cool down even more, as that snow will allow that air to be a little bit cooler. Here's the NDFD. This is the NWS projection for temperatures Tuesday morning. Lots of 20s, lots of 30s. Those freezing temperatures could even spill down into parts of the Florida Peninsula, which will be a record for them as well. And that's actually the wrong one. There we go. Some of those frost and freeze temperatures there into parts of northern Florida. Even Jacksonville, look at that, 34, breaking a record there Tuesday morning. And as far as highs on Tuesday, they will warm up compared to Monday, where we could see some record low highs across parts of the deep south and even in parts of the Midwest. Look at that, in Ohio, 38 degrees for a high. That would be a record low high if that were to occur. So definitely going to be the coldest air mass so far this season, but it will get colder, and that is for sure. If we zoom out to the United States, in fact, it's going to be quite hot across the west. Look at that, 90s over there in the southwest parts of Arizona and California. So while we are experiencing the coldest air of the season, they're still going to be quite hot on Monday. So whether you'd rather be in the west or the east, it's going to be quite a difference across the country on Monday. So let's go ahead and look at the long range and just kind of see how the pattern may unfold through the rest of November and into December. So obviously that cold air is going to be pushed out very quickly. We're going to warm back up through the middle part, maybe even a late November. Now, when we transition to that colder period, which will come, I don't have any doubt that we're going to see a cool down once again, at some point, whether it's late November or early to mid-December. We're gonna see real winter come at some point within the next month. We just matter of when it actually onsets. And you can see the European ensemble here. This is the extended guidance. This goes out over a month. Still a very strong stillness, has been very consistent. And the European ensemble is usually pretty good. The long-range European, usually fairly good. Doesn't do so great on Priest, especially this time of year. Usually is a little drier than reality, but it's fairly good with temperatures at this range. But you can see that cooler air just settling in for a while as we have a persistent troughing pattern across the eastern states through what could be most of December, maybe even going into around Christmas. So if you're the type of person like me who likes a cold Christmas, maybe even a white Christmas, the pattern is trending. Of course, as we're getting into that range, the pattern is starting to look cold for that part of December. So maybe a cold December as far as the whole month is concerned. There's a lot of questions. We can't say as far as snow is concerned. I mean, we can just look at it for fun as far as the snow total off the European ensemble, but really this is anyone's guess. Snow is going to be anyone's guess. We're not be able to talk about snow until we get like 7 to 10 days within each setup. So it's just snow chances will probably increase as they usually do with any sort of big cold air mass coming in, but who's going to get snow or who's going to be just getting cold, we can't say for sure. So as we get closer, we'll be able to talk about it more, but this is a case where I think lots of us are going to see much colder air come in either late November or early December, and that cold may stick around for quite some time, really putting winter into our hands for the month of December. And here's the GFS. I know we don't look at the GFS a lot, but I generally found the GFS to be pretty unreliable so far this season, so that's why I've been sticking mostly with the Euro. The Euro's had its faults too. The GFS has been in its own world with being way too warm, being way too dry, being way too progressive with these systems. So that's why we stuck with the Euro for most of this video, and we've just gone with that. The European has been very reliable so far this season, and that's what we've just stuck with. But you can see at a GFS, let's see, I was like, whoa, it's really colder than the European, but it does start to kind of break down that warmer air into late November to early December, but it is much warmer across the western states and even in Canada. So this, again, may be a bit too warm with how the teleconnections are starting to line up for early December. It looks like we're going to be in a much cooler air mass that's going to stick around for December. I don't think the GFS is quite right here. It does show that we are going to break that above average pattern, but not as aggressive as the European is. So maybe somewhere in between. Maybe it could lean to the GFS. We don't know, but just be ready for much cooler air next week. A warm up after that. It could last 2, maybe 3 weeks, and then at least for the northeastern states first, the northeastern region, Great Lakes and Northeast, prepare for a much colder air mass coming in December, and that could spill down into the rest of the country east of the Rockies. So it's a hard pattern to figure out. It's winter time. It's not winter time yet. It will be in a few weeks, but it's fall going into winter. It's getting quite complicated. So just keep an eye on things, keep watching things, and of course we'll let you know about what is coming. throughout this season. So thank y'all for tuning in. Again, I apologize for missing out on yesterday's video. I just completely forgot about it, but stuff like that happens. But today is making up for it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you guys in the next video.